Buckle up, because the double denim bitch is back. Everybody I mention, living or dead, everybody deserves us to strive to understand them and to have compassion and to also take off our rose-coloured glasses and just see things for how they are, okay? To carry out a covert 2-year love affair with not one other person knowing, that you know of, that you're aware of, other than your lover, this takes a skill set, okay? And how does one learn this skill set? A sweet and docile child. A child growing up with trauma, with difficult family dynamics, they learn their own coping mechanisms, their survival mechanism, okay? We know about flight, fright, and freeze, don't we? We know, about this primitive coping mechanism. There's a saber-toothed tiger. Do you try and outrun it with flight? You'll probably get chased down and slaughtered. Can you fight it? Well, we can make spears. We can develop tools, weapons, so spears, which could have turned into the modern day dart gun, and we can freeze. And freeze is probably the survival mechanism that is the reason human beings, Homo sapiens, are the race that have survived today. A combination of things. Sure, we're fleet of foot, we're on 2 feet, we have opposable thumbs, we can climb trees. With our opposable thumbs, we can create tools. With our immense brains, we can devise of ways to use tools. We can think of them in the first place. And freezing saved lives, okay? It's confusing. It's, are you prone? Are you dead? Is there something, do they not see you? Do they run past you? Freezing is a powerful coping mechanism. What does freezing look like in children of alcoholics? Because the children of alcoholics are often kind, loving, sweet, docile, right? And particularly if older children have left the nest and you're the one there, how do you cope? You don't have people to fight for you, to take pressure off. So what do? You learn to placate, you learn to subjugate, you fly under the radar, you are a sweet and docile child to the detriment of your own development. You're learning not to take up space, you're learning not to be assertive, and you're learning not how to call it quits and cut your losses and run, aren't you? Because I'll say this, Suzanne wasn't told one day you'll find your Jane. your Saint Jean. She was told one day she'll find her Fred, okay, not her father, her stepfather, whom her mother was married to. And Suzanne was in a home raised with her father and stepmother, and Al-Anon is a book for people who are trying to heal and grow out of trauma, the trauma of being perhaps a daughter of an alcoholic. So what Suzanne has maybe done is manipulated a situation whereby instead of leaving one marriage, she's integrated another person's marriage into hers as a type of freeze, perhaps before fight and flight. And every time Mike King lasciviously, I can't speak this morning, sorry, I still haven't finished my I don't do small talk coffee. Johnny here. Every time he says, nearly in a state of meditation, and it makes me wonder what he is imagining, how he just loved hearing Suzanne was a sweet and docile child. My mind, well, first my stomach churns, and my adult brain, my world experience brain, says, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is a person with expertise, with experience in several things, cult breaking, no less. And he is fascinated by this rather than curious, rather than disturbed. Now, this isn't to say that children can't naturally be sweet and pliant and loving and kind, and that Suzanne wasn't these things without it being her freeze mechanism. I am not saying, stop thinking in absolutes, stop thinking on one side or the other, a black or a white, okay? Black and white exist at the same time. They create grey and shades of. And I find this really disturbing, and it's nearly a willful overlooking of who Suzanne might have developed to be as the daughter of Jean Mormon, who was ill with regret. He was ill and he was living with regret. He expressed this regret. He caused a rift. He has had a hand in creating the Suzanne that we think we know. We don't, but he's created her, and he died with this regret, okay? And, you know, these things can run in families, can't they? And it's, you know, all of this is just my opinion. It's me just being forward with an opinion. And I'm always happy to change it. But could you see that perhaps Andy Mormon has gone out into the world as the same thing with the same addiction, weakness? And I am saying this from experience. And if you want to learn of a method to quit alcohol, well, you can just ask me and I'll point you in the right direction. So, you know, he's died on his deathbed with regret, the father of a child who learnt to always be serving, to anticipate his needs, to be lovely and kind. And this is a way of being invisible, of avoiding being the punching bag, perhaps mentally or physically, and to avoid wrath. Okay, and as time would have gone on, she's developed her coping mechanism. She's honed her skills over decades, if she's gone, see, maybe Jeff didn't seem like the white knight type as a teenager or as a young man. Barry Morphew was an heroic figure to a young Suzanne Morphew, perhaps looking to jump out of a fire, out of a fire or fry pan, right? And he looked heroic. He was a goer, okay? He was a hard worker. He was ambitious. He was a good old boy, okay? He was a Christian, with it, whatever you think about that. Whatever you see, don't just take one Machiavellian or 2 or 3 Machiavellian YouTubers' words for it, right? About who Barry Morphew is. Now, yes, Suzanne could have jumped out of I'd say a fire into a fry pan. We only know later, what was to come, right? Possibly to come. And she's wanted to run out of that family and into her own. And Barry was the one there carrying her, comforting her when Suzanne was going through her first deep, dark illness as a teenage girl. And I put it to you that her family are jealous. They have misconstrued everything about Suzanne. They haven't had this true knowledge of her, this intimacy with her and of who she is. Her sister basically turned her back, dismissed her like flicking a fly off a table. I'll pray for you, I don't know what to say, and then deleted her plea. And was she judged for being, Suzanne, she's so sweet. She gets her way with everything. She's so sweet and kind. Well, yeah, Suzanne probably was deeply, truly kind. A lot of this is learned behaviour, and she has been very misunderstood, and I think this is a miscarriage of justice. Not to mention what's going on now, because truth is justice. That's what I believe, right? Now, she's gone into her marriage, and if this is a controlling marriage, she's got the perfect skills for it. They're only going to get better over decades, and you can't tell me there wasn't joy. You can't tell me that she wasn't holding a lot of love for Barry Morphew. And imagine when you're having your babies, when you're having your, when you're having your children, you're growing your new life, you've got so much hope for the future, and there's so much anticipation. And by the time she's woken up and, she's wanting out, she's gone about it in a way that, many people are hating her for it. Okay, so you can't admire it, but she's doing what she kind of knew, really, and it is wrong, but the fact that she confused you and let you down, that's your own problem. Excuse me, I've got so many allergies at the moment. I'm so sorry about my sniffling. To keep a relationship mum for 2 years, this is incredible. Not to be shared with Sheila, with a sister. I can understand why. And, you could understand if it was flings, but it's very manipulative, because she's talking to people. She is talking to a friend deeply about her marriage, deeply. Not really, not truly. See, someone that is hearing one part. Remember, there's one side in the truth, right? And you've got to always remember this. And it doesn't mean don't love and trust your friends and support them, but it's be truly intimate. Ask the right questions. Because how can you truly understand them, then truly offer the help? Okay, how do we know Suzanne, if she's lying by leaving something out, she's not lying by making up things about being scared? We've got her word for it. You know, people, YouTubers, are going on about how Barry, he seemed so intense in this last year. Wow, what an intense man. Hello? You're not seeing regular old Barry before, you know, before his wife went missing, before he's being hunted, chased, followed, harassed, having videos made about him. He's a cartoon with a spud on his head, being called Bear, and being told that he's the baby daddy to Morgan Gentile's children. How damaging is that? She should sue. We've got people still vomiting this up today and in my comments section. So if you're going to do that, you can fuck off. You know, of course he's intense. Of course he's looking stressed and dark. Who wouldn't be? Yeah. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if premeditated, if he done it. Premeditated is 2 minutes or 2 years or 4 years or 2 months or 2 weeks or 2 days. I don't know. I don't know. But perhaps if Suzanne wasn't a sweet and docile child, if perhaps Suzanne didn't grow up in a difficult, traumatic household, a broken household. Sure, privileged, you know, but growing up with older brothers that weren't there all the time, they don't really know her, who've gone out into the world and worked in family businesses. Maybe there's resentment that she just got the money. Suzanne's just been given things. She's not running the businesses for it, and why should she have more? Jean Mormon's sick for a week, a month before Suzanne disappeared. She didn't even know. No one told her. No, the siblings didn't tell her. Don't tell her. She might get in contact with Jean. Who knows? I don't know. That's just being sick and stupid. But she's grown up in an environment that has created a person who reacts to abuse a particular way. And it's not to be assertive. It's not to have boundaries. It's not to know when to hold him, know when to fold him, right? She just held him and held him and held him. And until such time as she started playing another game, started gambling, not only with her own family, with her own well-being, with her children's, but with somebody else's. With somebody else's who didn't have their husband for holidays, for intimate long phone calls. Who knows? Maybe it was reinvigorating Jeffrey's marriage. You know, this happens. But a 2-year affair is different to flings. You know, what if she'd been just having flings like you were all saying Barry was doing? Maybe he was. You haven't come up with these people, have you? You haven't exposed anyone. He had 2 girlfriends, you know, the Machiavellian YouTubers, you know, talking about his girlfriends. Oh, 2. Yeah, after his wife's gone missing, maybe he wants some friendship. Oh no, for Suzanne, it's friendship, it's support, it's comfort, it's an oasis. And for Barry, it's something else. You've got to check your bias. You've got to check your standards, your double standards. You've got to check what's going on up in here. You know, these are the people that make up our juries. Do you think this is just? Do you think people that make these sort of judgments without understanding human nature and real life and You know what? You are less compassionate. You are less compassionate and empathetic. You're not playing with a full deck, and so you don't. You're not making judgments based on everything. And then as soon as you see another card, oh, geez, you just turn dark, don't you? Turn vicious, right? So, who's going to be on this damn jury, right? Isn't that going to be tricky? And all these, sorry. So, people that can have these covert relationships, it's a skill. They're created. They do it for a reason. She was using it to get out. Maybe, yes. Was it true love on either side? Maybe they felt it in the moment. Maybe they just enjoyed experiencing it. Maybe it was just a fantasy. Maybe neither of them wanted it to be real. I don't know. But it seems Suzanne did want it to be real. She wanted to leave Barry, marry Jeff. I guess she had role models for that, for creating new alliances, new families from the way she grew up. And maybe she thought Jeff, who wasn't heroic and white knight enough originally to marry, maybe she thought this time around he would be her Fred. And frankly, it doesn't work out like that, does it, ladies? Occasionally. But if he wasn't good enough then, he's not good enough now. And she wanted to, have this new life. And the life, she deserved to, and she has a right to. But, going that way around to get it, it's been hurtful. And was Jeff going to step up this time? Because was he? If it's true, think of this. If it's true that Suzanne was scared, was she just not telling the love of her life, the new love of her life, everything? And if she was, why was he letting her go back after spending weeks on end, a week at a time with his love? How could you let her go back to danger, to where she was scared and unhappy? So what's the truth? Her friend, what is convenient for people when they're telling their story? We must admit this. We all do this, right? White lies make the world go round, and sometimes big ones too. And sometimes they bring the world to a crashing halt. We're not sure. Just because Jeff Libler says his wife didn't know. What do you reckon, ladies? Yeah, what do you reckon? We know, don't we? Women always know, even if you pretend you don't. Darkly, they turn a blind eye to abuse. So they're going to turn a blind eye to affairs often too, because they need to keep their status quo. But once they have evidence, what do? Push them out? What action does the scorned woman take? Because it's not always divorce. If divorce wasn't an option for Barry, what option was there for Jeff Libler's wife? What do you reckon? There are these questions, and I want to know, how was this looked into? Because they weren't investigating this. People have had 6 months, okay, without investigators looking at them. I want to know what were investigators looking at? Were they actively saying, okay, what sort of things happen prior to someone going missing out of a life from a marriage? Let's look at affairs. How did they not find Jeff for 6 months? Were they looking hard enough? And why not? Why not? So 10 scenarios might seem a lot, but doesn't one just sound like too little? You've got money everywhere. Who's going to have it and from whom? You've got affairs. Who's going to have who, when, and how? You've got betrayal and yeah, that's pretty lies. You've got, disturbingly, many people surrounding the family that have criminal records or are involved in nefarious things. They know about the Morphews, where they live. They would know how vulnerable Suzanne is. You've got people with records of various offences who know that she's alone that morning. You've got Highway 50 through Colorado, the state of the missing and murdered women, right? Probably going past Suzanne's home several times a year. Who knows, right? You've got this unknown DNA from these unsolved crimes, and they're on her back seat, on her glove box, and on her bicycle. Solve that. You know, whose is it? Is this some drifter? Is this some person that's taking labouring work in Salida? Did Suzanne want to take out Barry? Yes, no, I won't get a divorce, but an affair and a murder is all right by me. She didn't want to separate the money either. I bet she didn't want to lose any more than she felt she had. Was she intending to murder Barry, and did her hired assassins decide that she was an easier target and they could take the money and run? There's too many scenarios. We can all think of many, and we can make them fit the fact, okay? Speculation that fits fact. And it's not just to be nasty, annoying, hateful. No, it's not. It's for the truth and for justice, because both Suzanne and Barry need to be understood. We need to understand them and the crime, whatever has occurred, and we want the truth, and truth will lead to justice for both of them, whichever way it swings.